before she goes on her month-long sojourn to Russia. St. Petersburg, Russia, is that where it's at?
I'm going to be in Moscow the entire time.
They have tremendous vodka. Say hi to Vladimir Putin for me.
I will absolutely do that. Colin Coward says, hey, Vlad.
What up, Vlad? Great to have you in today. Doug Gottlieb's coming on later in the hour. Of course, tonight, Game 7, Houston, Golden State. I'll take the Warriors. Think Harden plays really well. All right, I do it every Monday. This started years and years and years ago. I do it during football season because I sit up here and I have big, strong opinions. And it's not fair if I'm only telling you when I'm right. Sometimes I make big mistakes. So I come out and say, hey, this is where I whiffed. And we call it where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong. Here we go.
Where Colin was right?
Last week I posted a top 10 best players in the world in basketball, and the one that got a lot of pushback was Klay Thompson. I put him at number 10, and people said, what about Russell Westbrook? And I said, what about him? Once again, he's at home watching the playoffs. Klay Thompson, to me, is the most underrated basketball player in the world. He's a top 3 shooter in the world. That sort of matters. He's an excellent defender with virtually no ego. And even counting LeBron, he's the only NBA player that fits seamlessly on every single roster. In an era with a lot of point guards and a lot of good wings, he is easily the best 2 guard in the NBA. And he scores so quickly that he not only changes quarters and halves, but he changes games and series. Golden State trailed by 4, a couple of minutes left in the third. They won by 29. That was because of the tsunami brought on by Klay Thompson. He, outside of Steph Curry, is the fastest scoring player in the world today in basketball. We were right on that one.
Where Colin was wrong.
You know, I've been ripping Cleveland's roster since the All-Star break, saying you can never depend on one guy. LeBron can never depend on one guy. Kevin Love's hurt, J.R. Smith's cold. But I will say this, collectively, somebody always delivered. George Hill had 20 points in Game 6. I thought Jeff Green was excellent yesterday. Always been talented. He had 19 points. J.R. Smith was generally good at home in almost all these games. Tristan Thompson gave you yesterday what Tristan Thompson, when he's good, can, 10 and 9. Listen, I don't love the roster, but to say LeBron did it alone, almost always there was 1 to 2 players who would deliver. Yesterday it was Jeff Green. He played a key role.
Where Colin was right?
Well. For years, I kept saying about Chris Paul. He's not flashy. He's not vertical. He does the things that don't get noticed unless you're a smart basketball fan. He's valuable. IQ. Great defender. Leads in the huddle. Leads on the floor. By the way, he was MVP of the Rockets in this series. He gets hurt, doesn't play in Game 6, and they get beat by 29. And they had 25 second-half points without Chris Paul. That's with the supposed MVP, James Harden. Harden may be more talented, but Chris Paul, we're finally seeing what I think fans that appreciate great basketball are seeing. This guy is absolutely fantastic, and I don't think Houston can win this series, even with James Harden, without Chris Paul tonight.
Where Colin was wrong.
Listen, for the last couple of years, I've been saying Golden State's the best offensive team of my life. But is it me, or have there been long stretches in this series where they've looked tight and rigid and nervous? Their execution for a veteran team has been really poor down the stretch. I don't even know what's happened to Draymond Green. Kevin Durant's disappeared in the fourth quarter. This series is tied at 3, and so far, Houston looks like the tougher team. In fact, I think Houston would have won the series if Chris Paul didn't get hurt. I like Golden State. Sometimes in sports, you can't explain everything. They look like the young team. Houston's playing like the incumbent. Houston's playing like the one that feels confident. I don't know what to make of the fourth quarter execution of Golden State, Draymond Green, and Kevin Durant. I thought Steve Kerr, I think he's a good coach, but there are times at the end of these games, Warriors don't know what they're doing, so I'm sorry they can't classify as the best team ever.
Where Colin was right?
I've never bought into this. Kevin Durant is so close to LeBron James. Kevin Durant now is the best player in the world. In his last 5 fourth quarters, Kevin Durant has 12 points total. LeBron had that yesterday. LeBron is a bigger, stronger, faster, tougher, more willful, better ball handling, better defensive player when he wants to be guy. LeBron James has some Tiger Woods. He intimidates other players. Kevin Durant's more Phil Mickelson. He's a great shot maker. LeBron does everything better than Durant except shoot, and that's a thing, and that's important, but it's not like LeBron can't shoot. LeBron's three-point shooting has improved dramatically in recent years. Let's put that baby to bed that KD's a better player than LeBron.
Where Colin was wrong.
Well, this one hasn't been proven yet, but it'd be fair, I have to give it credit. Dean Blevins is a sports director in Oklahoma City at a TV station there. He gave a report last Monday saying that Paul George's agent is telling people that Paul George is gonna return to Oklahoma City, saying that George's agent has been telling people, listen, the reality is Andre Roberson got hurt. If he was healthy, this team can win a championship, which of course they can't. But now I still think he's going to be a Laker, but there is a report. I don't think this local sportscaster is just making stuff up. Somebody's telling him something, so I'll take a loss on this one for now. If Paul George signs with Oklahoma City and wants to eat at Applebee's 6 days a week, that's I guess I
Don't knock Applebee's.
that was
okay?
really petty of me.
That was a low blow.
I like Applebee's, the Bloomin' Onion, or is that somebody else?
Colin, just call it quits on the Applebee's.
Where Colin was right.
Quietly last week, I feel really good about this one. Quietly last week, the New York Jets traded 18th string quarterback Christian Hackenberg to the Raiders for a 7th round pick. It's interesting because they picked him up in the 2nd round in 2016. He was a quarterback from Penn State. And I said at the time, nice kid, can't play a lick. Worst 2nd round pick in the draft. I said it. I said Tim Tebow, don't draft him. I said Johnny Manziel, don't draft him. Christian Hackenberg, I said, what are you doing? He completed 53% of his throws in college with a good college coach, Bill O'Brien, a quarterback coach. And then the Jets willfully admitted, yeah, that was a completely wasted pick, and he hasn't played a lick.
Where Colin was wrong.
You know, I've been tough on Danny Ainge last couple of years, always talking about draft picks. Got to get a draft pick. Got to get a hot prospect. Give me the young guy. And I'm always like, anybody watching the NBA playoffs? Veterans win here. This is a veterans league. But I will say this. They are really set up for the future. Terry Rozier is an excellent first guy off the bench. Jason Tatum is a home run. How good can he be? I don't know. But he is an exciting drive to the basket, shoot at three, multi-layered. I mean, there were times, yesterday he looked like the second best player on the court. I don't think he's as good as Kyrie Irving, and we'll see about Gordon Hayward. But I will say this. Just because you don't have a catchy nickname, the process, like in Philadelphia, whose future do you like better today? With the elevation of Jason Tatum, as much as I like Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, I like the next 5 years of the Celtics.
Where Colin was right.
I've been saying this for years. I really do like Pete Carroll. I like him a lot. I think he's a very, very good football coach. But he does this whole rah-rah thing, and his teams get loose. And at USC, you know, he takes over the team, rah-rah-rah, rah-rah-rah, pro player, players are the man, empower the player. And it works. But over time, players have too much ego, too much empowerment, and the thing goes sideways. And at the end, USC was a mess. It was too loose. And in Seattle, same thing. Players are everything. Rah, rah. It's like high school chemistry. Yeah, players, energy. Yeah, wow, run, talk, politics. Hey, Cliff Averill was on our show last week and said, yeah, the Seahawks are kind of doing what USC did, which is like people after that Super Bowl aren't listening as much.
Me personally, I'm not going to lie, I never listened to Coach Carroll. I never needed him to kind of motivate me on game day or for practice. I understood it was a job. I understood what I needed to do. So I never really paid attention personally. Now, for other guys, I could see how, you know, the message could get crossed a little bit, especially after, like, the Super Bowl run when guys started kind of questioning what our foundation was after that play.
This has always been my theory, is that when you hand a locker room over to outspoken players, unless it's the quarterback, it deteriorates. And I've been saying this for the last couple of years. Seattle got too chatty, too talky. Russell Wilson's the star. You're letting defensive backs and pass rushers be the stars of the team, and they're not. And the locker room, to me, feels like USC at the end. It's too loose. It's not galvanized. They're out of the bubble. And they are picked by almost everybody, including Vegas, for third in their division this year. For the record, I really like Pete Carroll, and I think he's a very, very good coach. I just think he gets too pro player, raw, outspoken, tight, Coughlin, Belichick, Knoll. You have a history here. Keep it tight. Systems, quarterbacks, protect them. Doug Gottlieb's right around the corner. Plus, my thoughts on what to expect tonight. I think tonight's very predictable, and I'm not just talking the outcome.